And we're from Globe, Arizona. We're here representing my deceased son, Scott Johnson. Our son and brother, Scott Johnson, was fatally stabbed to death 2 blocks from our house in Globe, Arizona on September 18th, 2010. He was 26 years old. He was attempting to visit a neighborhood and high school friend that had recently moved back to Globe. The perpetrator was living in the same house with his girlfriend, who is the sister of my son's friend. The perpetrator was released from an anger management rehabilitation clinic in Tucson only days before. He admits to taking the following medication on a daily basis: Xanax and Paxil for his emotional problems and methadone for his heroin addiction. He stabbed my son with a 6-inch fixed blade hunting knife, severing his inferior vena cava to the point where it was beyond repair. My son bled to death. The perpetrator is claiming self-defense, saying he was afraid for his life. My son was unarmed. There are no known witnesses to the homicide except for the perpetrator. Our family feels the case wasn't properly investigated by the Globe Police Department and the Gila County Attorney's Office, as they looked at it as a case of self-defense from the beginning. The following are our concerns with the way the investigation was conducted. The night of the incident, there were no investigators, detectives, or commanding officers dispatched to the scene to oversee collection of evidence and question witnesses. There was no drug test administered to the admitted perpetrator that night. I had called the police chief days afterwards. He had told me that there was no policy. The Globe Police had no policy for drug testing suspects. The officers on the scene failed to search the immediate area with the exception of a quick walk through the house. Investigators failed to obtain some key pieces of evidence that were talked about in witness statements several times. Most importantly, the shorts and underwear that were absent of any blood stains that Scott was wearing when he was stabbed returned to us with his body. He was stabbed in the stomach and there was no blood on the shorts whatsoever. Releasing the perpetrator only hours after questioning, releasing the perpetrator only hours after questioning to return to the crime scene without supervision, despite the fact that it was a potential homicide and that he could dispose of or clean up anything that would implicate him. Question any neighbors with the exception of the next door neighbors who claimed they heard or saw nothing. We did have a person come forward a year later that said they heard the fight, the screaming, and the sounds of a person dying a year later. He was never questioned. They also did not collect clear and concise photographs of the crime scene the day after during daylight hours and follow up any immediate requests of the family. The main thing was we had complained about Scott's keys and wallet missing, and they were found 5 weeks later at the crime scene. No search of the area. The city manager or city attorney informed the perpetrator's attorney that they had concluded their investigation after only 3 weeks. This was 5 months before the medical examiner's report was complete. Our family on multiple occasions requested an outside experienced agency be called in to assist with questioning and other aspects of the investigation because of the way the case was being handled. We could see from early on that they lacked the training and experience to investigate this kind of case. The resignation of the Globe Police Chief at approximately the same time the investigation was concluded by the City of Globe, and also at the same time my son's case was being made available to the public, led to further questioning of the investigative agencies involved and the underlying reasons for not looking at every possibility that caused Scott's death other than self-defense. And I have many other things. I know I can't get it in 5 minutes, but we feel that they had made a determination immediately that it was self-defense, and that's as far as it went. We have evidence, and they've never looked at it. And since it is a homicide, it's still open. but the county attorney wrote a declination letter not to prosecute. We're still actively investigating the case with forensics, but I didn't know where else to turn but to come here. So I did write a little thing on the end here. You can tell I'm kind of nervous. I said, so here we are, a year and a half later, still trying to find out what really happened that night. The Globe Police Department, along with the Gila County Attorney's Office, are satisfied that the perpetrator killed my son in self-defense, despite of all the questions that remain to be answered. We, along with our attorneys, are still actively investigating his homicide. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep, my name is Robert Verdugo. My brother is William Verdugo. I live in Gila County, about 300 feet away from the city of Globe. So I'm pretty much on the outskirts. If I call the police, the sheriff sends the deputy over. So my place, 12 by 60 trailer, has been broken into several times. This last time, you get tired of your house getting broken into. So this last time, there was an investigation, and there was a lot of evidence. One thing led after another, an investigation, and they closed the case. So my brother, retired police officer, was telling me, did they do this and do that? And I said, I don't know. So I gave the responsibility to my brother, William Verdugo, to kind of supervise the case. Well, there was a lot of questions that came up, interesting questions, and then when they closed the case, then they opened it back up again because of my brother. But I had a phone call from the county attorney saying we want to close this case, and I said, well, what about the hair samples that was in the hat? Did they do a test? And she says, I don't know anything about a hat or a hair sample. I said, well, what about the blood samples? He cut himself. He said, I don't know. She says, I don't know anything about a blood sample. Well, there was other little things. What about this and that? She says, none of that has come across my desk. So there's a stoppage between point A and point B. Now I got a state-of-the-art alarm system this time. And I bought it because they said it's tied into the police department. I said, well, that's a pretty good deal. Well, I talked to a Gila County deputy, and I asked him about it. You're coming out, right, if this thing goes on? He says, we're instructed not to do that. Okay. Now what? We're just open season for people who want to come over and just take your stuff, break your windows, and just walk away with your stuff. What can we do? I pay my taxes. There's got to be a supervisor. A supervisor is super. Super is in front of visor. Super is like Superman. You go to your supervisor. He's got all the phone numbers. One time, my place got ransacked, and I didn't charge. I didn't make a case. But they found the guy. And I thought that was pretty impressive. How'd they do it? I didn't file anything, but they caught the guy, and where he's at now, I don't know, maybe serving time in jail. There's another thing that, there was a rumor that this guy who ransacked my place was in jail. He was on a work release. He did 2 houses, my house and somebody else's. After his 8 hours was up, he went back into jail. It just goes on and on and on. And as homeowner, I'm kind of like open season out there. And the supervision in Globe, and my brother, Bill, that I told you, he's got some good. They stole some guns, and they found the gun at a pawn shop. My brother Bill says, okay, where's the interview? I don't know. Well, what did they do? Well, they released the guy. Why did they release him? He had my pistol. He was going to give it to a pawn shop. They did their things with the numbers. The detective was called, and they were talking with Globe, and they let the guy go. Was there an interview? No. Was this? No. Was that? No. Did they do this? No. So I just, as a homeowner, you've been ransacked several times. My brother's been ransacked down in Phoenix, and he got all his stuff done. My daughter got ransacked in Globe, and her case is still under investigation. But what's going on in Gila County? We don't know. Let's investigate. It's not going to hurt. Let's ask questions. It's not going to hurt. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Maybe we just take a quick break, maybe for about 2 minutes. I'm sorry to interrupt, man, but
Time
I
to
want to hear
think
what you
about
have to say, but just to make sure we're on the same page. 2-minute break, please. Thank you. We'll reconvene.
Now you contact them and but this get initiated, and I'm going to go up there and say some stuff too. And yeah. You're leaving.
I apologize. I will stay.
Can I contact you?
To catch.
Okay. Or you'll be able to review it, or I just contact you. Okay. Because I don't have. I'm a reporter, and I see all these cases.
Oh, okay.
It's a tragedy what's going on up there all the time. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So now what do I do? I contact these people again and file it.
Yeah, you can probably ask William and me. And I'll help you find out. I'll let he'll know. See, I'm discouraged by what happened today because I feel their case was. I feel though there are problems, you know, it's not evident enough like that he didn't follow it. You know, they're not bringing any information except Norris was a bad guy and wanted to kill him. That's bad, you know. But in your case, I mean,
They just flat out believe
the doctor has to clarify, or someone has to clarify that knife did not stay in there in a way that would cause him not to bleed. You know, and that's an important thing, because when you say that, they think it might have stuck. You know, it's important to note. He was stabbed multiple, you know, and it's turned. He's in the back room. He's in the back.
Yes. It actually was.